Well, hello everybody. Pastor Randy here. Welcome to Making It Simple. Great to be with you today on this beautiful Monday. Had a blessed weekend. Hope that you did. I've been doing this for a long time, 22 years. And it never, and I posted something about this on my Facebook page over the weekend. It just never gets old when you get to be a part of something that's life-changing. Being a part and taking part in a couple of young men's lives this weekend with their baptism. Just the mere mention of it gets me emotional because the power in that moment was incredible. Seeing that they have placed their faith exclusively in the works of Christ and what he did for us at the cross is awesome. There's really no other words for it. It's just awesome. These two young men, they serve. They're an active part of our military, facing unknown situations every day as to whether what their details may be, where they may go, and the reality of going and not coming back. I mean that is a real conversation, and God bless them. It was powerful to be a part of that. It leads me back to what we started talking about last week, faith, the power of that. What is the object of our faith? That's what we left off on last week, the object of our faith. That is so important, friends. There are so many different avenues, channels, opportunities, and every other kind of a word that we could come up with of where we can place our attention, but also many where they place their faith. By never understanding and really not stopping to take time to understand what that word really means. And again, we spoke on this last week. It means unflagging trust, which equates to the simplicity of no doubt. I have absolutely no doubt that this is going to work. And as I stated last week, and I'll state again, that doesn't exist on this earth. There is nothing we can have that level of trust in. Nothing. Because everything here, from machines to one another, can fail, and most often do. Not to be negative, not to be pessimistic. That's just reality. And so when we understand that, then we realize we've got to find something much bigger than that. What exists? What is reality? What can we find? It's Jesus. That's it. That's the answer. And so when we understand that the cross, I spoke on this extensively yesterday in the message yesterday, and it was what a powerful moment. Not because I said so or because it was me, but God allowed the message to come through, and I'm humbled to be that servant. But speaking of the clarity of the choice that is presented before us, what are we going to place our faith in? Is it the things of this world or is it the things of God? It's very clear, friends. And when we look at Christ, when we look at the journey that he took to Calvary and what that means to us, all that it represents, our salvation, the guarantees of such, these have to be the objects of our faith. They have to be our focus, because if not, then we so easily get distracted by everything else. And a distraction, the purpose that it serves is to draw your attention away from something else. Well, who benefits the most by taking our attention off of Christ? The enemy, right? Because he doesn't care about your success. He doesn't care about your eternity with Jesus. He doesn't care about your health or your well-being or anything else. He just doesn't want you to make it. He doesn't. And that sounds almost too simplistic, good guy, bad guy. But it really is, that is the scenario. is he doesn't care what methods or means that he has to use to distract you, whether it's the shiny object, whether it's the promise of and the lure of fame and celebrity. I've seen that. I've listened to that. I've been through that. People dangling the golden carrot in front of you. I've got the keys to the kingdom. They didn't even have a keys to a house. Still live in the basement of their mom's house. I mean, the enemy is a liar, and we have to understand that. And when our attention is distracted, not only do we no longer have an object of our faith, we don't even know what we believe. And in that state of confusion, that state of chaos, that state of unknown, not only do we lose focus, we lose progress. In other words, we don't accomplish anything. And when that happens, then we become stagnant. And if you've ever been around a stagnant pond or a stagnant puddle or body of water of any sort, it stinks. Because it just represents death. Something that's not alive. It has no life, no anything there at all. And therefore, what it produces is more death, more stagnancy, if you will, if that's a word. I want us to focus on this. This is important. John chapter 1. I've oftentimes referenced this as the other in the beginning. And I would even say maybe the prioritized one. We know the Genesis in the beginning journey. We understand the creation and the story there. But why is that important as it pertains to John chapter 1? John chapter 1 is how the other one got there. In the beginning was the Word. And the Word was with God. Well, wait a minute. That sounds personal. And the Word was God. He. There's a specific identity placed on this. He, the Word, He was with God in the beginning. Jesus always has been, always will be. All things were created through Him, and without Him, not one thing was created. Why is that so important? Jesus would later say in this same book, John chapter 14 and verse 6, one of the more well-known verses, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes unto the Father but by me. What is the object of our faith? It has to be Jesus and what He's done. Because without Him, as the song says, I would be nothing but a ship without a sail. Where would I be going? Drifting here, drifting there, but never going anywhere. Knowing is so much more important than maybe so, guess so, hope so, think so. Knowing. I use this reference all the time when I'm teaching. If you know the answer, and I mean know the answer, where there is, again, no doubt, water's wet, fire's hot, on-so and on-so, we could find all the... But when it pertains to what I believe, what is the object of my faith? I know that I know that I know that this is real. That can only come by exclusively placing our faith in Christ and understanding who He is and falling in love with God and allowing Him, submitting myself to Him, allowing Him to draw closer to me as I draw closer to Him. Having the wholeness, the completeness, if you will, of this truth in what we believe, it is essential. It is essential when it comes to our eternity, but it is essential as it pertains to our life right now. We have so much uncertainty around us, friends. We have so much just cloudy, muddy water these days that nobody really seems to know anything. But if we go back to this one who in the beginning has always been and loves us with a love that we can't process, we can't even fathom that level of love. When we begin to understand the beauty of what God has done for us, when we begin to understand the love that God has for us, we then turn our focus to, okay, well, faith, unflagging trust. We begin to see very clearly that you can't have that in anything else. That this must be exclusive as it pertains to the things of God. Because without that, then we're looking in every other direction. And I used this just last night on a lesson, but it's like an old country song, and I'm looking for love in all the wrong places. We can make light of that, and we can have some fun with that. But in seriousness, as we're pursuing something in all the wrong places, what does that come up to? What does that equate? I never find it. And what I do find is heartache and heartbreak and emotional duress and all this other stuff. That is not what God wants. And he's saying, if you will trust me, if you will have an unflagging trust in me, if you have faith in what I say, I'll show you. I'll show you. Jeremiah, it tells us very, very clearly in Jeremiah 33, if you call unto me, I'll show you. I'll show you. But that requires that we trust him. Trust can only be in that in which we fully know. The book of Hebrews, chapter 11. Of course, the more known, I guess, if you will, that faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. We've obviously heard that multitudes of times. But in verse 13 of that same book, chapter 11, it says this: these all died, and this is speaking of what is oftentimes called the hall of faith. Speaking of Abraham and Moses and Noah and on so, these all died in faith. Here's important: not having received the promises, but having seen them afar off, and were persuaded by them, and embraced them, and confessed that they were strangers and pilgrims on the earth. When we place our faith exclusively in the promise of God, meaning that the evidence of things not seen, but I know that he's there, I trust it with all my heart. Friends, it changes everything when we begin to understand that. So we're going to stop right there today, and we're going to finish this lesson tomorrow, Lord willing. The power of faith. How does it, when we think of the word power, we think of strength, or we think of something being fueled, how a machine is powered, whether it's fuel or diesel or electricity or whatever the case. How are we fueled? Protein and food and all that. But what fuels our faith? What do we really get on fire about? What do we believe with an unflagging trust? Not just the well, maybe it'll work out. No. What do we know? And this only comes in the things of Jesus. And the only way that it comes to that is that we know him. It absolutely 100% every single time comes back to relationship. There's no way to get around that. And while there are 1,000 different things that can be taught, that's the most important one. Because if we don't know him, we can't trust him. It's relationship 101. That's how that works. God bless you, friends. Thank you for joining me each and every time we're together here for Making It Simple. I hope these lessons are a blessing to you. I love doing them, and I look forward to finishing up this lesson on faith tomorrow, and then we'll move on to the next thing that God has for us. Thank you so much. Have a great day.